Hello, I'm Franz. That's Andy.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the March 2023 Town Hall for Concrete CMS. This is your monthly check-in with what's going on with concrete and new and exciting stuff. So let's get right into it. In some of the news, if you are not paying attention to our blog and our newsletters, you should be. We are doing a lot of case studies. Jess has been reaching out to partners and really finding those interesting projects where there's a combination of marketing organic content that really benefits from concrete's drag and drop user experience, and also application-y secured area, my account areas, or express-based or other ways, databases where you're really kind of combining that organic content with something more structured. And concrete does a really good job of doing that because there's so much functionality built into the core around permissions and workflow and that kind of stuff. So we have been going out there and trying to help pull some of those stories out of the ether. Being open source, everything's so distributed and everyone kind of works in their own little environment. So we're putting some real energy into kind of spreading the word of the cool things you can build with concrete. So you should pay attention. Our case study section, we're also cross-posting those to our blog. You'll see them on Facebook. I just saw one last night where she's shouting out a New Yorker article that is referencing a concrete CMS site, which was pretty cool for me.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, if you've got work that you think fits those parameters, it's more than just a 6-page marketing site. The site does something. We want to hear about it. So reach out to us. There's plenty of contact forms. Jess will we'll fall on, help you write the thing. We'll promote it on all of our medias. You're welcome to promote it on yours. Everybody wins. Super cool. So wanted to get the word out about that. I feel like there's other stuff that I'm spacing, but I'm sure it'll still be interesting when it comes back to me. The big news this month is there is a release candidate for concrete version 9.2. Very long in the works. People were asking us last year, when's 9.2 coming out? We're like, first quarter of next year. And so here we are. Good on our word, into first quarter, out comes 9.2. So y'all should be testing this. Just to be clear, before I let Andy start demoing the stuff, the way this works, we put everything together. We say this is working for our installs, but we don't know about yours. So we need you to take the time to set up a staging server, upgrade to 9.2, let us know if something's not working as expected. Those bugs we will fix. New features we will not add. If you have some bright idea that you're like, oh, I really wish this was in there, that's great. Would love to put it in for 9.3. So go ahead and make sure that there's a good GitHub issue for it. Try to get other people voting for it with their comments and thumbs up, and that'll get on the roadmap. But the goal with the 9.2 release candidate is, can this be released? So let us know if there are critical bugs, things that make the whole deal die. All right, that said, want to show off a few of the key improvements and new bits in 9.2. How do I present Andy's screen? Do you do that? Do I do that?
I can do that.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can.
You give me something to put into the feed here. Maybe you can drive and I can talk. We can show it off. Give people a reason to apply this upgrade beyond security and compliance. Oh, here we go. Something's showing up. There we go. Booyah! 9.2. Awesome. So first thing is the onboarding process is something that we're spending a lot of time trying to dial in. Years and years ago, I think we did a better job of this than we have done in recent releases. But, we spend all this energy getting people to set up a concrete site, and then we just kind of dump them into the dashboard for some reason. So we're trying to revisit that, especially now that we're doing more SaaS hosting on our own site. What does it feel like when you first come in? And so now when you run 9.2 the first time, you get asked these questions. Hey, what are you trying to build? What role do you most identify with? Very progressive. And what type of organization are you working for? Is this a personal site or is this a huge enterprise? Your answers to these questions impact the help text that you see right here. So if I said I was a developer, I would see something different here than saying, look, I'm building an internet. And we're hoping these little changes in a world filled with SaaS software that is entirely unipurpose driven and aggressive marketers telling you that their solution does everything just for you. It's important that we are dialing in the path that you take to creating value with concrete. So that's what we're trying to do here. I'm sure this will improve over time. This is all extendable. You can use this framework to kind of change it if you're kind of using concrete as your own web builder. So there you go. I think like a couple of bases there. Editing, we want to do a little bit of drag and droppy. So you can see a lot of these suggestions came from Glenn at Catalyst. Thank you very much. And a great GitHub thread that had been around for a while of, hey, I think these are some ways that could make the editing experience just a little more graceful. You can see there's tabs on all of the block areas now, and they include the name or the container name, which I find really, I've been using 9.2 for concretecms.com for a while now, and this has made a huge difference in my life. I know not everybody is using containers yet. They are a great way to kind of have consistent design elements on your page, but they are, you can get in a situation where like, I don't know how this part is rendering because I've just got 2 columns and I've got like 6 different containers that split things into 2 columns. So yet another one of those, hey, this seems like a simple tweak, but really nice to be able to look at a page that is kind of what I'm shooting for and say, oh, we're using 2-column highlight there. I want to use that container elsewhere. And when you drag and drop, oh, sweet hit areas. So we now expand the page a little bit. You can see when you grab something, the page throbs, it grows with potential. There we go. And anywhere that you are allowed to drag the block or container that you are dragging gets a nice fat or a thick highlight area that changes green when you are actually going to drop it in there. If you can't drop it in there, it won't highlight. Gone are the days of having to like dial into a 1 pixel high hit area and be like, I don't know, did I get it in the block or the outer container? It is now much simpler to know where you're putting stuff. And, that's pretty important. Containers also do a little bit better job of dragging and dropping. Some of the challenges with earlier versions, I think this had been fixed for a while, but there were challenges around impacting sort order with containers that have been resolved. Anything else here? One thing that I don't know, I know it's not 9.2, it's 9.1, I think, but the inline design stuff is worth showing for those that maybe are a few versions back. Like if you go to any of those guys and start messing with the settings, you were there. Start like changing not just the template, but like padding or margins or something, like any of those styling stuff, just manual. Actually start playing with that, and you will see.
I guess that's a good example.
You have to turn a shadow on. Yeah. Come on. There we go. Things happen as you mess with them now. So before, many moons ago, you would make these changes, you would hit choose, you would hit save, and then you'd get to see, oh, that looks pretty good. I'm going to come back in here. And, obviously that's nowhere near as nice as being able to actually just see what things look like as you go. So I believe this was a 9.1 improvement, but if you're a bit behind and wondering why my reasons to upgrade, here you go. All sorts of finesse being added to the in-context editing experience. By and large, very much driven by community ideas out of GitHub, people making posts that are true, useful, and kind. Hey, editing interface could be a little bit more graceful. I put some thoughts together as to how that would work, and I don't think it's a huge departure from what we're doing. Still feels on brand. Should be reasonably easy to make, and they are, and we appreciate it. So thank you, Glenn, and everybody else that contributed to that thread, and great to have more finesse in the editing experience. Also, do we want to do the publishing or the production and staging stuff?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sweet. We have added modes to your site. This will resonate to the more developer centric of you. But if you are managing a complicated web presence and you've got a continuous development, continuous integration workflow where there are multiple copies of a site, one of the things that you will run into is it's easy to forget what you're actually looking at. And you may make changes to a site thinking that you are posting that content the client wants, only to realize actually it's a stage. Or you may not really be configuring your staging environments the way you should versus your production. So now Concrete has a kind of active mode, what production mode you are in. And when you change it to staging, you get this red bar across the bottom of the page. Hey, you're in a staging site. And it's much easier to keep track of what's going on. When you change to production, as Andy's doing, you should get a message saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Before you think you're ready for production, we want to run some tests because it's 2023 and nothing simple. We're going to go ahead and run a whole set of tests that's managed with a queue, so y'all can add to them as you get crafty with your developer challenges that we have spaced. All right, so we ran those 8 tests and we have not done well. We have a red box.
Ready.
Not ready. What happened when we go in there? And man. We
failed.
are failures. Happily, we can turn our fail into a success by simply clicking these buttons that take you directly to the page in our rather complicated dashboard at this point, where the settings that you should be tweaking are, all of which have a lot of inline help explaining what they do and don't do. So as Andy changes cache settings and debug settings so we don't display sensitive data, which is super handy on a staging site. I want to know what the error is. But on a production site, please don't show people errors with database passwords and that kind of thing in them. So I think you have changed these. And if you rerun the test, so there's all sorts of tests. And again, these are extendable. So if you've got specific compliance challenges and that kind of thing, you will find all sorts of stuff. Let's see. I'm showing you. It goes into your welcome thing. All right, rerun it.
Yes.
While we're waiting for that, you can see there's some other tests here that you can run from your site health section. You find custom JavaScript is one that I know about for some of the stuff that we do on larger sites. Oh, we still think somehow. It's important to know if there is JavaScript across your site. You can basically do anything with JavaScript these days. You embed a simple line of code from some third party that's going to add some tremendous marketing value to your stack. And now you've basically opened up your site to some third party that can do whatever they want. So if you are worried about heavy compliance projects, you will find that managing the JavaScript that has been included on a page-by-page basis is a real challenge. And you end up in this dichotomy of, well, I'd love to give my clients the ability to use view source in the HTML block, but then they're going to get crafty and stick some embed code from somewhere that they shouldn't. And we've spent more time than I'd care to admit scanning through databases, trying to find, hey, did somebody figure out a way to embed JavaScript where they shouldn't have? And this script is another test you can run from here that will go through your site and see hey, is there any JavaScript going on here?
Nothing here.
We're clear. We're good. We are not including anything wonky. And did we manage to pass our other test?
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm not It's so funny. Oh, we did. We passed.
There we go. Yeah,
we passed it. I think, there's if you've got too many of these warnings, you will fail, which is not immediately obvious. But any of the critical errors will make you fail immediately. But if you have too many of these little yellow guys, you'll also potentially fail.
Interesting.
So yeah, interesting. Learn new things all the time. A threshold, yes.
That's
yeah. So yes, but we have the good news is we have passed our production status. This site is ready to go into production. There are still some interesting findings here, like consider turning on your full page caching. And since we have a canonical URL, which you do need to pass the production status test. Um, but it's not SSL because it's a local site. Currently, we don't consider that an auto fail, but I mean, we might at some point. It's probably 2023. A site should probably not be in production if it's not on HTTPS. So that's something to continue to think about. But yes, we have passed this test.
And just to be clear, like if when we have failed or when we have passed, like what does that mean in the big picture?
It doesn't mean it's basically for you to know. It's
Yeah.
not for it doesn't impact whether your site will render to the general public or whether it will or will not do anything. The site is this is a new layer added onto Concrete that is meant for those of us who run sites that have to pass compliance, to be pretty honest, to be perfectly
Hmm.
frank. And so we want to know that what we're putting out into the world is secure and configured in an optimal way. So this is basically just a way to both enforce is probably too strong a word because, like I said, it doesn't really force you to do anything, but it's a little bit, it's halfway between full enforcement and sort of our best practices checklists, which I know we've already posted to the docs. It's one thing for there to be a doc somewhere on our site saying this is what you should do when a site goes into production, and this is more like an integrated checklist that allows you to check live against what your site is actually doing. And it also pulls against the production modes as well, because you know you don't necessarily care if your canonical URL is not SSL if your site is in development mode. My local machine does not run its local copies of sites in HTTPS because that's prohibitively difficult. And that's perfectly fine for development. But once you enter into production mode, you want to make sure that everything is configured optimally. So this is a way to get you um, to help automate and guide you through that process in a way that'll save you a lot of time and lead to more secure sites.
Nice. A value add, not a gateway.
Yes.
Andy, can you quickly go back into edit mode on that homepage and show me the difference between a container and a block area in the tab structure?
Sure. So this is a container. Any of these tabs you find, if you click on them, they will attempt to highlight what they contain. So in this, when I click on two column highlight, and I'm not sure why this new margin is there. That's very new and annoying. And so we'll probably fix that before we go in because it is really setting off my OCD. And yes, so I click on this. You can tell this is a container. It has this little icon here. More importantly, it's sort of purple, which is a color that we chose to sort of delineate what containers are in play on this page. And so if I click on this, this border turns more opaque, the contents turn more transparent, and that shows that this entire thing is the two column highlight container. And within that, of course, containers contain sub areas. And so this container contains two areas. One name is column one is column two. So if I click on that, you can see these are just the contents of column two. If I go down here, this brown thing is actually a layout, and you can see it's called that because it has layout at the end of it. It's also brown. It tries to match the icon of the layout.
Hmm.
Actually, I don't remember if that. Oh no, that is actually yeah, we pull that from somewhere. Um, I think actually this is probably just the a generic icon, and this is actually pulled from
Container ones do.
the
Yeah, yeah.
container one does. Yeah, and so if you click on this, same deal, highlights the contents within, and then these brown tabs are sub areas within that layout. And then down here, this full width thing is just a block added to the area that contains all of this stuff. Same with this. And then we have another container, and then we have another block and another container. This one's interesting because it actually has sort of two rows,
Hmm.
because containers are just fragments of HTML. You can put anything you want in there. So you might have, they're not just layouts which sort of go sequentially. Containers can have multiple rows. They can have named areas inside them. They can act differently in mobile, etc. And so if I click on this, you can see this entire area here. Um, this entire spot on the site is the highlight stripe container. The top part of it is called title. The bottom is called body. And then we have another block. And finally, down here, we have a gray tab that is main. And so if I click
Just a
on this,
regular old area.
yep, that's the thing that is containing all of the things that I've just walked through are sort of the first line items within the main area. So there could be blocks, there could be containers, there could be layouts, there could be all of them. You can see when I click on main, this entire thing highlights. But it's really handy because then if I go back up here, I can see, oh, page header is actually a whole area as well. And then these are, we do try and make it clear that these are areas by using this white tab and green. And then
Mm-hmm.
up here for site-wide areas, which are global areas in code, we do the same, but with blue, which is a color
Little
we've
blue.
used for global areas for a long time. And then, and yeah, that is kind of, and then these are all global areas as well. And so
So there you
that
go.
is
Yeah.
sort of the crash course in what the colors mean and how to figure out what is what.
Yeah, and trying to create enough distinction that people can understand what they need to without putting like really chatty labels on everything that become redundant.
Yeah, like we have had, we try and find a good balance between no discovery in the page, which is sort of what we did with 5.7, and we dialed that back, and that was kind of, it was an overcorrection to the problem of 5.6 that was just dumping tons of, areas and full width area labels at the bottom and really chunky borders. And this is a reaction to the minimalism of 5.7 and version 8, which I know, um, made it was one thing to have that on sites designed for the 20, a website designed in 2010 where you might have a lot of static content or dynamic content that's not controlled by the CMS, and then a single area, the inverted L with the main area here and like 3 blocks in it. It's like, well, yeah, it's great. Like that minimalist approach works just fine. But once you have, containers and layouts and blocks one right after another, and it's impossible to know where anything ends and begins, you're just dragging blocks from the left panel and just hoping to find the arbitrary spot where the content begins and ends, and it's crazy. So
Dragon prey.
yeah, that's right. So I think this is a good middle ground between those, and as with anything, it's just continuous refinement and trying to make things always get better.
Awesome. All right, let's do some API chatting. I don't know if you need to do fun
Yeah.
authentication setup.
Yeah, so this is how we turn on the API. I've already enabled the API, but I've not created what we call an integration. Integrations exist because we don't just let anyone have access to the API by default. It's secured by default. So you have to opt in by creating an integration. So if I were creating an application called, who even knows, like a mobile blog or something like that, I might name it that. You can name it anything you want. And then another new feature with the fully shipping API is our interactive documentation. You can have this turned on for production. It is secured behind a permission. You don't have to. It's kind of most useful when you're figuring out how the API works. And then we also have scopes, which allow you to limit what a particular integration can do with information on your concrete site. And when you create an API integration, it gives you these 2 values, which you want to write down because this one you can get again, this one you will never see again, and it will be encrypted. So you want to keep that. And then once you create the once you create this, if you've turned on that checkbox, you can go to this View API documentation console. This is again gated behind a permission, so it's not just publicly available to anyone if you happen to know the URL. But this is a open source standard called Swagger and Open API, and we've this all of our documentation, all of our API works with that as first class client of it, and we have worked really hard to work with those open standards and provide our API documentation in such a way that can power this interface. So this is totally unmodified. We do have a specifications document that is dynamically generated by Concrete. That means if you add express objects, you can include them in the API in 9.2, and they will just show up in this list of API endpoints. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And And yeah, so if I go into authorize, it already has my client ID, which is pretty cool, but actually I don't want to do that. I want to do this one. I'm going to go
You
down
were in
here.
a different window. I don't know if that is by design and okay, or
Oh
not
man,
important regardless. That's probably perfectly viable, but
this
we're not
is,
watching you.
yeah, no, this is, again, I remember this being a real pain in the ass to, it really wants to open in its own
There we
tab and
go.
it really doesn't want to let me. It's gonna complain if I do this.
There we
It's
go.
just gonna complain. So if there's a way to share the entire browser, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, there may be.
Yeah, let's try that. The entire window is what I need.
There we go. All right, we're
All
back in
right.
business. I see the
Yeah,
tab.
not a tab. The tab is not the way. Yeah. So again, like I said, which you probably missed, there is this cool API documentation console powered by open standards. This endpoint here dynamically generates the documentation YAML that powers this, and these are fully interactive endpoints that you can get access to right in your browser. So I will authorize this session here by pasting in my client and secret, and then I will ask for access to all of these endpoints because I want to show off how this works. I go through the authorized flow, which anyone who's worked with OAuth has probably seen before. And then I can close this. And now I have the ability to use all of these endpoints. And so if I click on this, let's say I want to get information about the homepage, and we use sort of the open standard idea of includes, which allow you to tell the REST API what type of data you want to return, just so you're not always getting the most verbose data. But if I'm, using this data in an application of mine, I might want to actually not just include the all the really highly structured data about my block types. I might want to include the content as well. The content is lets you grab the entire rendered content of a page so that you can include it in your application. And then say, yeah, I also want the custom attributes. I don't actually know if that's a good idea for the homepage. I don't think there are any, but we'll have to see. And so when I do that, you can see it goes in with this. It gives you a mock request. I guess not a mock request. It gives you the actual request it used, and then here is the response, the real response. And this will give you the areas because I asked for areas, and it will go through and give you all the information about every block in it. And then since I asked for content, it will also add another thing at the end that is the actual rendered content of a page, which is pretty handy if you're building a kind of a client for a concrete site that is a mobile application and you don't want to reconstitute all the page content on your own. You want to just kind of display it as is to the user. Yeah, all kinds of other stuff that you can do here. Let's say I want to see what files are in use on the homepage. That is a feature of block types for a while. And so I requested just the files in use, and it will say, yeah, the image, all the blocks that know how to provide their files to us, these are the files that they're using, which is pretty cool. And then you've got these IDs, and you can, use those for the files endpoint, and you can say, give me information about this file, including its custom attributes. And so you can get its width and its height, stuff like that. You can even, if you want, you can say, you know what, I don't want that file anymore. That file's not working for me, so I want to delete it. You've got full access to, and no idea what the homepage is going to do right now. I think it probably should be fine. Yeah, so you can totally see we have a feature complete API. We've had a lot of these underpinnings for a while. The documentation system was pretty nascent and got rewritten for 9.2 entirely. We had a couple of these endpoints as proof of concepts, but they are mature and tested and useful at this point. And we're really excited to see what type of applications we can build, what type of applications you can build using this kind of stuff. And again, like I said, Express also uses this fully, not just to read information, but also to create objects, to delete them, to update them, etc., and get information on all the custom attributes that are there. And certainly not the end version of the API, but exciting starting point.
Yeah, very, very cool. So if you are looking at headless content management systems for a solution of how do I share content between different channels, if I'm building something for a more complicated client and they've got a mobile app or two and they've got a couple of different websites, and I really want to give them the flexibility of being able to build a page that doesn't take 3 weeks and a team of 6, but on the other hand, I do need to be able to share information consistently and easily through an API. Now you got it. Concrete CMS is a hybrid headless CMS platform that you can use to do both organic marketing content, drag and drop, simple web builder, and then you can take the output of that creative process and share it with business applications and big boy stuff, so big girl stuff, which is how we've always seen these gigs mature, at least for us. Somebody comes in, they build something quickly that shows some value, and then they start to get buy-in from other people in their organization. Hey, that looks great. Can we repurpose this content here? Like, you have all of the accurate hour information about locations. Can we share that with our mobile app? And that, this API gives you the bones that you need to do that really efficiently. So I also am very excited, Andy. Great work. If y'all have questions, you should be asking them, because we're going to get into some thank yous and some PRB stuff and start to wrap this show up. But I'm sure, there are long lists of bugs and other things that 9.2 includes. I think that those 3 silos are kind of the big. Those are the hits on the.
Yeah, those are the major new friends.
Yeah, those are our singles on our double LP of 9.2. Because there is a lot in there. I've been watching these pull requests go by. It's just like, oh my lord. Okie dokie. That's the news. Only a half hour in. Let's get into thank yous. Concrete's an open source project. We're only here through the volunteer contributions of many, many more people than just little old Portland Labs here. And so I want to take a quick moment to thank some of those people for the work they've done in the last month, helping us across the board. So Andy, can you take the lead on that?
Sure, yeah. Thank you to I am Pedro Piedad and Way Too Sharp for You, which is an excellent handle, by the way, as an aside, for your work on the documentation. It is very much appreciated when people come in and submit tutorials and update our docs and help us continue to make those better. That is much, much appreciated. Thank you to all those who have submitted issues in GitHub this month. That includes Kurt Cunin, Marcin Shapirka, Jumkit, Barry Spears, M. Locati, Luigi23N, Dean L. Zuderlicht, M. Boss, Nick Radering, Catalysis, BTA VASSC, Pachu97, Nikki Devilly, Ashish AX, Hishi, C. Gauchi, Yaz-K, John the Fish, ASDF, GHJKL 2016. How'd you choose that one? George RTL, AOL Rogi, Michael Valenti, and WTFLM. And
wow,
yeah, a lot of consonants
how'd
there.
you choose that?
And finally, to all those who help submit by submitting code, that is also extremely appreciated. Thank you, as always, to Emlokati, Hishi, and Dan Klassen. I see you 3 in there more often than not, and thank you so much for all the help that you continuously provide.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you to everybody, and thank you particularly to folks in GitHub who are submitting things that we can approve. There's no more complete and graceful way to help than say, here, please approve this. It makes things better. Although everything is appreciated. Okay. Once a month, we award a special prize we call the Golden Baton. It is passed from one community member to another as a sign of respect and camaraderie in helping others across Concrete CMS. Last month, it was given to JB1, a longtime community member who has a bunch of add-ons and travels the world doing exciting things and also coding with concrete. And this month, he is choosing to pass it on to, drumroll please, Dave Reeder. You are the lucky winner of the Golden Baton at $250 in marketplace credit, the badge itself, and our gratitude as a whole. So, congrats, Dave.
Nice.
Okay. We are going to jump into what has been going on with the PRB and check in with them, and then we'll do any Q&A that we have from earlier stuff and get on with our days. So let's see if I can pull this off without any audio-visual challenges.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March 2023 edition of the Marketplace News. I'm JP. You all know me better as Enlil. Let's get into it. This month, we have one new package to introduce to the community, and it is Anti-Spammer Master for Form Reform by developer M. Nakale. In order to use this package, you will need to have two other packages installed. First, Anti-Spammer Master by developer M. Nakale, and Form Reform by developer John the Fish. Anti-Spammer Master provides an excellent anti-spam system for your concrete CMS site. Form Reform provides an array of block types, each representing a form input type, submit button, etc., for building forms in a page on a block-by-block basis. Anti-Spammer Master for Form Reform brings Anti-Spammer Master functionality to Form Reform. Just add an Anti-Spammer Master handler to your submit button pipeline, select the way you'd like it to be checked, and you're ready to go. The spam control page in the dashboard is where you can view your statistics and edit all of your anti-spam settings. As noted in the documentation, the time to submit will just work for Form Reform. Simply enable it and modify your settings. To use a honeypot, simply drop a honeypot block into your Form Reform form. Anti-Spammer Master for Form Reform is free in the marketplace. It is for version 9 only. It is PHP 7 and PHP 8 compatible. That's all for this month. Have a great day, everyone.
Boom.
Nice.
There we go. Thanks, Enlil. That's exciting to have another PRB admin making videos. So great job. Awesome sauceum. I think that we have reached the Q&A section of our town hall, which is going to look pretty brief. We've got one from John. Observation on the API, all you can get by ID. What if I don't know the ID? Can I get by an email, user, or path? Can I get by other stuff on these objects?
It's a good question and totally reasonable. I think for version 1 of the API, and I don't think we're looking at necessarily having to do huge versionings of the API when we add new endpoints. But I think, I think we punted a bit on search entirely, and I don't mean search like searching your site. I mean just searching of any of the endpoints, like searching users, files, pages via endpoints. Like we have a listing endpoint that will list the whole thing and will give you some sort of pagination controls. And then we have the ability to retrieve objects by their IDs. But the whole search aspect of it, so being able to retrieve a user by a piece of criteria, whether it's in a group or an email by its email, etc. We punted on that because there's a lot to that, and you want to make sure you get it right. And once we put these out there in terms of APIs, we don't want to have to be constantly rethinking them. So we punted on that search aspect of it. Looking at really well-formed APIs like Stripe, they don't usually have the ability to retrieve their first class objects by different identifiers. Like they don't have different endpoints to retrieve a transaction by auth code instead of an ID. But they do have search endpoints that let them put in different pieces of criteria and retrieve a listing of objects. So what I expect will happen is we'll add search endpoints for things like users that take different criteria. So you could have a key value pairs of, here's the thing I'm searching by, email equaling Andrew at concretecms.com, and it will retrieve a list of users who have that email address, which would just be one. And then once you do that, you can get the ID that you need. So yes, that is definitely, it's a limitation of the API today, but it's not something we're not thinking about. It's definitely something that will be coming at some point in the future.
Yeah, should be able to get to it. Probably a two-step process. Let's see. How do I get rid of that one and add this one? I guess just like that. This is actually a question from last month that we never got to. Mobile editing. Can version 9 be edited on phone screens? No edit site button in the drop-down nav. Will that be fixed in 9.2? Well, I would use the word fixed judiciously on that. I think mobile editing was always a accidental delight more than a real initial goal. I mean, it is a drag and drop web builder that uses a lot of mouse events. So I always thought mobile editing was a miracle when it worked. And it doesn't shock me. It doesn't work that well. I would tend to kind of push it towards like, hey, we should probably use composer interfaces and kind of go for like a minimum viable, oh, geez, I really need to change these core elements more than trying to like manage the whole, drag and drop web builder experience on a phone. But hey, I don't want to make things hard that are easy.
Yeah, that has not changed yet. I think we're kind of in, like, we turned that off because it didn't work very well and had some other issues. And yeah, and so there is a little mobile menu that does not have that in it, and it hasn't been turned back on. So in 9.2, but it is something, yeah, it is on the list of enhancements that we'd like to get to.
Yeah, it's a concern. But honestly, and I guess that's a good segue. We'll talk about one more thing here to see if any other questions come in while we wrap up here. Yeah, how do I get rid of the banner? There we go. In GitHub, when you submit an issue, and GitHub is where you should be to submit issues. We have sunsetted our bug tracker on concretecms.com. Someone asked about that last month, and we hadn't looked at it for ages, but it is now gone. So there should be no ambiguity. If you want attention to what the core does and how it should do things differently, you should be in GitHub. And when you submit an issue, you'll be asked, what type of issue is it? It's either a bug, meaning, hey, something clearly should have done this, looks like it should, and it's not, and I'm getting an error. It's broken. Use the words fixed and that kind of thing. There's a feature request. Hey, it'd be really cool if it also, or have you guys considered this other thing? Do we have any other types? Is it just those two?
I mean, I think it's those two. Those are the ones that you get funneled into when you're creating issues. That we have a ton of different labels, and so I think we have, like, there is some squishiness between like new feature and enhancement. We do have those two things, but those are the main silos, though.
Those are the key things. And when you make a new issue, you will find that you are asked to choose between those two, and you're actually, like, some additional information is requested of you. Hey, can you reproduce the bug? Like, show us a video of reproducing the bug or something. So there's like a chance that we could actually try to fix the thing. We are taking the strategic approach of it is feasible to have a platform with no bugs. It's not likely, but it is feasible. Hypothetically, it is feasible to achieve bug zero. And it is a laudable goal to at least work towards halving the distance to zero. And yeah, maybe you're only ever going to get to 98%, but that's something that we can do. And that's a good use of our time. And no one likes bugs. So if something's broken, it's easy to kind of be like, here's what needs to happen to fix it. And whether it's us describing, here's what needs to happen, and then approving somebody else's pull request, or us just rolling up our sleeves and doing it, there's value there. And so we're really going to focus on that side of things for a little bit here and trying to get our bug count down as low as we reasonably can. And if you're watching us closely in GitHub, you'll see that's already happened. Like, we have reduced bugs by more than 25% in the last couple of weeks. That's really cool. feature requests and new ideas, like we're never going to have zero. We wouldn't want to have zero on that. People have new ideas all the time. Some of them really resonate with us because we have similar problems. Some of them don't because we don't have those problems. And who are we to say, what the value of these things are? All we can do is share our own experiences. We don't know what yours are. And so I think we're going to take more of a, we still obviously are running the show and approving things in the end, but I think we're going to try to let feature requests get a little bit more debate before we classify them as high value, low value, easy to do, hard to do. We're going to come at bugs really quickly with that classification system. We have kind of two metrics that we look at. Is this easy to do? Is this hard to do? And does this provide a lot of value or a little value? And it's not exactly the words we use, but that's basically what we're shooting for. That makes a lot of sense on bugs. Like we can triage that stuff quickly. And, then people who want to help can say, oh, here are things that are high value, easy fixes. That'd be a great way for me to contribute to this project that I'm new to, yada, yada. If you are advocating for feature improvements, if you're saying, look, mobile is a thing and cool story that you guys don't care about editing your websites on your phones, but I do. And I've got a lot of other people that do. Make it a GitHub issue, get some comments, get some thumbs up in there, get some back and forth going. Keep it true, useful, and kind, because that's the only kind of interaction I'm offering to people, and that's all I expect to respond to. But if y'all do that, then it's very easy for us to say, well, yeah, I guess we should, the roadmap should really focus on mobile editing for 9.3, because look at this audience that is saying, look, this is how I edit my site, and you guys are leaving me out in the cold. We don't want to do that, but we don't know. So don't know if that sheds any light on our kind of decision-making process or not, but there you go. That's what I know. Anything else? JB is great. Yes, he is. JB1's awesome. Helped with the big site. Not surprised. Great developer, great guy. All right, going once, going twice. That is the news that I know from March 2023 in the land of concrete CMS. Thank you, everybody, for everything that you do. Anything else from you, Andy?
I think I'm set. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if I can find the outro. All right, we'll see you in a month.